all your people. Teach us to the generous in your outlook, courageous in face of difficulty, and wise in our decision. Father, we praise you forever and ever. Amen. Land acknowledgement, Laura doing the land acknowledgement.
With all that is happening around the world, we are especially conscious of the importance of reconciliation. And for us, in terms of supporting our Indigenous communities, reconciliation is about honoring the dish with one spoon wampum, one of our most foundational treaties. The sacrament of reconciliation and the Catholic social teaching of subsidiarity are important anchors for us as a people of Jesus, are important links to our work and to the land. As always, we thank Michi Sagik of the Credit, our local treaty partners, who have been stewards of this land for generations. Together, we commit to beauty and peace and to fight injustice and vigorously, passionately, resolutely create a future with hope.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Move, Laura. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Is carried. And any declaration of interest? No, I don't think there is no declaration. So item number 6, approval of the minutes of audit committee meeting, September 10, 2024. Moved by again, Laura. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Is carried. Hi, Julie.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, we have no awards and presentations or delegations or reports from the committee for receipt. We move to E1, which is the consolidated financial statements for the year ended August 31st, 2024. This evening, we have our partner and manager from BDO Canada, our external auditors. So I welcome Marcus Sconsi and Mohammed Solman this evening, who will be going through the report from BDO. But before we get to that, I'm going to hand this over to Superintendent Scott Keys, who's going to lead us through a bit of a high-level report of the financial statements. And then from there, BDO will present as well. So, Scott?
Thank you, Executive Superintendent Sherpaka. And through the chair, I would like to take you through and summarize the results of our fiscal year and the 2023-24 consolidated financial statement notes. The report starts on page 7 of the agenda package. I would first like to thank and recognize the efforts of Carrie Salami and Ezra Cyrus and the rest of the finance team for putting together the financial statements, notes, and other year-end reporting requirements of the ministry through our EFA system, which will be submitted prior to November 15th. And as Executive Superintendent already mentioned, we work closely with our external auditors from BDO, Marcus and Mohammed and the rest of their team. Our consolidated financial statements are prepared in accordance with the Public Sector Accounting Standards and Ontario Regulation 359-11, which provides ministry-directed reporting associated with our tangible capital assets. Overall, there are very little changes to the presentation of these statements, and there are no new accounting standards that impacted Dufferin Peel this year. The consolidated statement of operations reflects an in-year surplus of about $6.1 million. However, certain items are removed from the balanced budget calculation by the ministry, such as revenues used to purchase land through our education development charges, or EDCs, school generated fund, interest accrued on long-term debt, and asset retirement obligations. The board did purchase two school sites for the construction of new schools in the future. As these were EDC eligible, $28 million was recognized as EDC revenue, and as previously mentioned, this amount is not available for use in operations and is removed from the budget, balanced budget calculation. For the purpose of reporting to the ministry, the board has a compliance deficit of $21.9 million. Other contributing factors to financial results, and they are improved from our revised estimates, include the transition to an insured long-term disability plan in October 2023, the final reconciliation and runoff of the previous refund accounting plan led to a one-time reimbursement of around $14 million. The ministry did provide Bill 124 remedy payments, or remedy funding to all school boards. This funding was received early in the fiscal year and was beneficial to the board in addressing our cash flow requirements and resulted in savings of 1.9. Transportation realized savings of about $2.6 million from a reduction in fuel escalator expense, which is a new as a result of the new benchmark in the funding formula, and other operational efficiencies. Despite the reduction in expenses, transportation continues to have a funding shortfall of about $2.8 million. Remaining variances relates to grant impacts and changes in enrollments, savings and expenses due to unfilled staff positions, and are offset by unfunded statutory benefits and inflationary pressures, operation and maintenance. It is also important to note that the board does continue to operate under a multi-year financial recovery plan with the Ministry of Education. The fully employer-paid LTD plan does represent a significant cost to the board that requires ongoing action and support from the ministry to resolve the situation. I will now walk you through the consolidated financial statements and highlight a few of the which start on page 9 of the management report.
Excuse me, a little louder, please.
Sorry about that. Is that better?
That's better.
The management report on page 11 outlines the responsibilities of management, and we are responsible for the controls over assets and the reliability of the information provided in the financial statements. Page 12 has the independent auditor's report. However, I will leave that to Marcus and Mohammed to discuss. I will highlight, though, that the board continues to have an unqualified audit opinion. The statement of financial position on page 14. To highlight a couple of items here, cash represents the funds that we have on hand associated with the school-generated funds and school council bank accounts. The accounts receivable approved capital is the balance owed to the board for capital priorities, childcare builds, school condition funding, and other permanently financed projects. As projects continue to progress and debts are paid off, this balance will continue to decrease, again, assuming no new projects. Assets held for sale. This year, the board did set aside land and buildings of about $6 million as held for sale, and this represents the net book value of those assets. Under financial liabilities, the board continues to be in a borrowing position as reflected by the temporary borrowing line due to the ongoing pressures and cash flow impact of our long-term disability plan. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities increased about $50 million compared to last year, primarily due to the inclusion of the labor provision for certain employee groups for Bill 124 and collectively bargained salary increases that were yet to be paid as of year end. Deferred revenue decreased by about $33 million due to the use of our EDCs to purchase the aforementioned 2 future school sites and the depletion of the board's COVID supply of PPE, cleaning supplies, and HEPA units. I'll take you now to the consolidated statement of operations on page 15, which shows the board's financial results for the year comparing our revenues and expenses. Legislative grants or grants for student needs, or GSN, is the primary funding we receive from the ministry, combined with the education property taxes received from our local municipalities. GSN revenues increased from prior year due to changes in our average daily enrollment and updates to salary and benefit benchmarks from centrally negotiated agreements and other operating benchmarks as well. Other provincial funding represents PPFs, or partnership and priority funding, which are ministry-specific initiatives that they fund to school boards. Bill 124 remedy funding, that was about $90 million, and changes to salary and benchmarks agreed to late in the year as a result of the central bargaining process. Other fees and revenues increased from prior year due to the recognition of the EDC revenue from the purchase of the 2 sites, final reconciliation and runoff of the previous LTD plan, and offset by the proceeds of disposition that we received last year as a result of the sale of board property. On the expense side, board expenditures increased year over year, resulting from salary and benefit increases from centrally negotiated agreements. That was about $52 million. And the amounts to be paid to certain employee groups related to the labor provision, as mentioned previously, of about $40 million. And that is showed separately on the statement of operations. And then, of course, the continued inflationary pressures and ongoing operating and maintenance costs for the board. The next 2 statements provide further details on statements that we just went over, and they explain the change in our net debt as well as the change in our cash flow. I will now bring your attention to a few of the notes to the consolidated financial statements. Note 1G on page 21 outlines the requirements of a new accounting standard, PS 3160, public-private partnerships, or P3s for short, related to the accounting and reporting of those partnerships. The board did not engage in any P3s in this year, which is indicated on that note as well. Note 3 on page 15 provides details of our land and buildings held for sale that we previously mentioned. Note 12 on page 31 displays our expenses by object or type. The benefits include our LTD premiums, which is now paid as a percentage of our salaries and is easier to budget year over year. Note 17 on page 35 outlines our relationship with OSB, which is our insurance provider. The ministry has deferred the requirement to consolidate OSB into our financial results. School boards are not required to include them in their 23-24 financial statements. This will be achieved through the province's public account. Note 23 on page 38 highlights upcoming and new standards that may impact the board next year. We will assess the impact of these new accounting standards and the extent of their impact of their adoption will have on our future financial statements. Finally, note 24 on page 39 provides further information on Bill 124 remedy and the centrally negotiated increases and its impact on our statements. The ministry provided school boards with a lot of the wording for this. I will pause there and through the chair if there are any questions that there might be at this time.
I love that concise analysis. It's right up my alley. But while I was writing my notes, I didn't catch everything that you said. So through the chair, sorry. The labor provision in the statement of operations, can you just explain what that is again?
Yeah, so through the chair, the labor provision is the amounts that we had yet to pay as a result of Bill 124 and centrally negotiated salary increases, which is done through the central bargaining process. So the $41 million represents the amounts to be paid subsequent to year end, but we were made aware of, and it could estimate that prior to August 31st. So there are a few of our employee groups that are included in there, such as
Thank you. Through the chair, I did a little quick calculation, being an accountant. So I was looking at the school generated funds revenue, 20.9 million approximately, and then the expenses are 20.5 million. So that leaves about 400 and a little bit more thousand. Are those restricted in use?
Through the chair, yes, they are. They are set aside for future use only by the school. So they are not available to be used in the regular operation.
Or are you finished? John, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple questions on the statements. I don't know if we wait till after the auditor speaks or not, but in note 7, we have a salary escalation of 2.0, but discount on the accrued benefits of 3.8%. I assume the 3.8 is kind of a weighted average of the 2% and the 5% increases. Am I close there?
Yes, through the chair, that is correct.
Yep. Okay. In note 18C. Sorry, I'm gonna find my own version here. Yeah, it says the board has committed a contract. Should that be committed to a contract?
Through the chair, yes, we can make that change.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, in the same, I'm sorry, the same thing, 18C. The second sentence there, the contract and they should, it's singular tense. So should it be the contract ends? And then it says and have. So would it be and has?
Through the chair, yes, we can make those changes as well.
Okay, and then the final sentence, I'm not sure what that's supposed to say. I don't see a verb in that sentence.
So through the chair, I don't believe the sentence ends after Canada LLC. It's just a continuation of referencing the price.
Okay, thank you. Note 24. Sorry, through the chair. I don't think I said that earlier. Oh boy, there's somewhere in here it says though. I don't think I have the right note. I'm sorry. I'll have to find that. There's somewhere in there. There's the word though, and I think it should be the word through. But I don't think I have the right note. Excuse me. I just want to congratulate Julie, Scott, and the staff. I've been doing this for about 25 years with audit committees. I've never seen a report with no unadjusted differences. So congratulations on that one. I'm sorry. That's all I have for now.
Yeah, thank you, John. Laura?
Thank you. Through the chair. Note 7, regarding the WSIB, where is that expense located in the statement of operations? It's stated that benefit costs expense during the year are $6,197,000.
Through the chair, that would be in our benefits line. So it would be in the statement of operations, the benefits would be throughout the various categories. But if you look at note,
So it's in note 12?
yes, note 12, the entire amount's in the employee benefits line.
So no more questions, then you have a recommendation?
So through the chair, we'll allow BDO now to present their part of the presentation, and we'll take further questions at the end if there continues to be additional questions. So let Marcus and Mohammed take over the presentation.
Great. Thank you. Hopefully that's loud enough. So through the chair, BDO is pleased to present our audit findings report for the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board's August 31st, 2024 audit. Before getting into the content of the letter, I just wanted to reiterate a sincere thank you to the management team at the board under Julie's leadership, Scott, Carrie, Ezra, and the rest of their team. Very collaborative approach. We work very well together. They provided us the information requested, always in an appropriate amount of time, and the audit process went extremely smoothly, and that's why we're in a position here today to be presenting this report to you. So thank you to the management team for all of your assistance in completing the annual audit. I am going to jump down and go through the first couple of pages, and then I'll pass it to Mohammed, who will finish off the presentation. I'm going to start at page 4 of our letter, which is the audit at a glance page, pointing out a few items at the top of the page. First, preliminary materiality, which was communicated at planning. Oh, I didn't see page numbers in the full package. It's page 44. Oh, there's the page numbers page. So I'm on page 44. Apologies for that. The audit at a glance page. So as communicated at planning, our materiality of just over 23.2 million remained unchanged. We're also not aware of any fraud affecting the board. Just to remind everybody, although audits are not designed to detect fraud, auditors do have to consider fraud in the context of a financial statement audit, and that includes conversations with management and the finance team around fraud, and we were not made aware of any fraud through our discussions or our audit procedures in that area. And then finally, just to confirm that we are independent of the board, which is a requirement of our rules of professional conduct. Auditors must be independent of any organization they are auditing. And then finally on that page, my contact information is there. As I say every meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out at any point throughout the year if you have questions, comments, or concerns on either the audit process or the financial statements. Scrolling to the next page, the status of the audit. You'll see there's a few bullet points listed there of items required to be crossed off of our outstanding list before we can sign the auditor's report and issue the financial statements. We do have a few legal confirmations outstanding. That's fairly typical at this time. Our quality review, that one is actually complete now. As of the date of distribution of this report, we were waiting for that sign off. We've received that now, so you can remove that. And then the other items are always going to be outstanding at this stage of the audit. We need the Board of Trustees to approve the financial statements. Once they've been approved, we ask management to sign our representations letter, which is included in these appendices for your reference. And then we complete our subsequent events review through to that approval date prior to signing your auditor's report. Appendix A in our letter is our draft independent auditor's report, which is a clean or unmodified audit opinion, which again is the conclusion that our audit was completed as planned. We did not encounter any issues, and we are in a position to sign that clean auditor's report subsequent to the completion of the items previously noted. I'm going to pass it to Mohammed. He's going to go through the significant audit risks and the BDO response to those risks.
Thank you, Marcus. Talking about the significant audit risks and our responses, we presented our audit planning letter back in September, presenting our audit risks and our planned procedures. Going back on it, the first 3 significant risks are consistent from our planning, and we completed our audit testing and executed as planned. We didn't come across any issues for those 3. Moving on to page 47, the other areas of audit risks, these were risks that were not significant but are important to the committee and to management, as well as to our audit. The first 2, payroll and capital asset acquisitions, they're both just because of the magnitude of the balances. We completed our audit testing on both of those and executed as planned. No errors were noted. Coming to Bill 124, This is a significant issue, and this was an area that was important to our audit. So reviewed memorandums of settlements, related agreements, related to the various education sector unions and the Crown related to Bill 124. We also reviewed and agreed to the payments made during the year, analyzed the appropriateness of the accruals, as well as agreed to the subsequent payments after year end related to these payments. And the impact on the board has been included in the disclosure in note 24 of the financial statements. And our audit testing in this area was executed as planned as well. The next area of focus on page 48 is the long-term disability benefits plan for employees. Prior to this year, the long-term disability benefit plan was a self-funded plan. There was a change this year to move to a traditional insurance plan, and we reviewed the new plan agreement, performed substantive testing around the cutoff period, and ensured that the cutoff period and the surplus refund was received, and agreed to the deposits into the bank statement. Any other fees and revenues related to this are recorded in the consolidated statement of operations, and we didn't come across any issues on this as well. During the course of our audit, going on to page 49, we had our information systems audit team as well as our audit team complete review of the processes as well as internal controls. There are two internal control improvement points. These are not deficiencies. These are just areas where controls can be strengthened. And they're fairly consistent with last year with just a little bit of documentations to top up. We've already discussed these with management, and there are mitigating processes in place to ensure that these are not control deficiencies. Page 50 talks about our adjusted and unadjusted differences. It's a great thing that we didn't come across any unadjusted differences or adjusted differences. It just goes to the management and the quality of the financial statements being prepared. We also have other required communications on page 51. No significant issues or no management consultations were required. There were no disagreements with management. Everything was smooth on this end as well. Pages 52 and 53 talk about how we audit our financial statements, our audit processes. Page 53 talks about the system of quality management. This is a new quality audit standards that all firms are required to adhere to. The 2 pages talk about how the firm is improving the system of quality management by setting quality objectives, identifying quality risks, and designing and implementing policies, procedures, and controls to address the risks, as well as monitoring the effectiveness of the firm's system of quality management. On page 50 through 55, you can see our audit responses, our approach, and talks about our audit quality report, which can be seen on the right side of the page. It's a link that takes you directly to our audit quality report issued for the year. The next 2 pages, page 56 and 57, are our audit tools that were used during the course of our audit. And these have been consistently used from prior years to leverage technology in completing our audits. Moving on to page 58, it's a link to the recommended resources on trending topics. There are QR codes which will take you to the related pages for additional information. And then page 59 and 60 are spotlights on ESG and practical digital transformation and how BDO can assist both of these areas. There are also QR codes which take you to direct links that offer additional information on both of these areas, as well as services with which BDO can certainly assist with if any assistance may be required. And then our appendices are on page 61 and onwards, which Appendix A is our auditor's report. And as Marcus mentioned, that's a clean audit opinion. We have an unmodified opinion. Appendix B is our representation letter, which will have management sign when the financial statements are approved by the Board of Trustees. Any questions on the highlights of our report?
Any questions? Laura, do you have any question? John?
Yeah, through the chair. On the internal control matters, is there a management response to that? That's one thing I'm used to seeing.
Through the chair, we are currently assessing the impact of this, but as Mohammed had mentioned, there are mitigating controls to lower the risk. So as of right now, we agree with them, but we haven't been able to go through a proper assessment of the controls and what we can do about them.
Okay, and I found my other item. It's note 24, the third paragraph, the second line. There's the word though. I believe that should be through.
Thank you. We'll make that change as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, through you, with respect to staff's response to John's first question, when will we have the opportunity to go through and analyze that scenario or that?
So through the chair, I'll just start on this. As Mohammed and Marcus indicated, these are recommended findings. They're not deficiencies to the board. And they're really not new to us. These have come before. For example, one of the recommendations is to ensure your password settings are very secure. So capital letter, small letter, number, numerical sign. In some cases, we can't move forward with that as a school board. It'd be very difficult for some of our young students to be able to use a password like that. So in some cases, although they're kind of findings and recommendations and best practices, there are situations where we just won't be able to implement something like that. So we've reviewed these with BDO, but we don't necessarily have a response in writing for them. But we did have a meeting to discuss them.
Okay, that would have explained that would have answered my question before if it was in there to say exactly what you said, Julie. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. If I could just provide a little further context. I know audit committees never like seeing internal control improvements, even when they're not deficiencies. Just for some context, it's not uncommon with our other school board clients and large public sector clients to have anywhere from 2 to 7 or 8 of these findings. 2 is actually on the very low end. There's almost never none. And the types of findings, the specific findings here, are also fairly common among our other school board clients. So there's nothing unusual that I would suggest you need to be worried about in this manner. These, again, are just improvement recommendations. Auditors like things to be perfect, and we know they won't always be, but we try our best to make them that way.
Okay, thank you. Julie, you have a recommendation, right?
Yes, through the chair, there's a recommended motion.
That the audit committee recommend the Board of Trustees approve the consolidated financial statement and the related information of the Dufferinville Catholic District School Board for the year ended August 31st, 2024. Moved by Bruno. All in favor? Anybody oppose? Carried. Next item.
Thank you. And thank you to our BDO partners for being here. There's no additional business. We move to questions asked by committee members.
Anybody having any questions? How?
Through the chair, I just wanted to circle back to some of the LTD issue. It's been a thorn in our side for a few years now. So I understand that you've moved to a model where you're paying premiums to an insurance company. Is that correct for the LTD?
So through the chair, what happened during the 23-24 year is we conducted a competitive procurement. And what we did is we've moved from a self-funded refund accounting plan to an insured model. So we've transitioned to a new provider. And so the insured model is a set premium that we know won't change or go up and down during the year.
Through the chair, so in Superintendent Keys's analysis, there is a mention of a one-time reimbursement of 14 million. So is that money restricted in use, or is that available for operations now that it's been returned?
So through the chair, that money coming in basically just mitigates our deficit, in-year deficit. So we can't really set that aside to use it for anything. It comes back into revenue just to the board. What it represents is when we were with the previous provider, there was a reserve that was always there. So it dealt with in-year needs and changes to the membership in LTD and what costs were going to be there that we would incur. So when we completed the contract, we opted for no runoff period with the company, and we just said, that's it, we're done. And this was the final reconciliation, and the reserve amount that belonged to us was returned to us.
So through the chair, then, is there an expectation that this long-term disability excess cost will decrease over the short term, long term? Like, what is the expectation there?
So through the chair, in year, we actually recognized a change to our projected deficit. So for the 23-24 year that passed, the original projected deficit was higher. And when we did revised, it was lowered. So we recognized that our premium with the new plan was going to be less in year, but it is still a cost to the board. It's just became in a little less than it used to be.
Okay, and through the chair, Bill 124, I know that we've been told that the Ministry of Education will cover those extra costs as a result of the new increases. And are those costs in fact truly funded by the ministry?
So through the chair, not quite done all of the Bill 124 remedy payments, but very close to getting there. It appears at this time, and we've been trying to keep track of the different calculations, what's Bill 124, what's negotiated salary increases, and monitor the differences. It does appear at this point that the funding was sufficient for that payment, but we will have to do final reconciliation for the ministry.
Okay. Bruno.
Mr. Chairman, just with respect, I thought in here I read or I saw regarding LTD, and I don't want to be a dead horse to death, that it was 36.4 million. Did I read that correctly? What is the deficit on the LTD right now?
So through the chair, our revised estimates deficit for 23-24, which we would have reported back in December of 2023, we projected a deficit of 36.5 million for the year. That was LTD, that was unfunded benefits, expected deficit in transportation. So there was a few things in that number. But our current ongoing LTD cost is about $27 million. So that was the majority of the deficit.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
If there is no more questions, so we have to move in camera. Okay. Okay, Bruno moves. All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we will move to in-camera for anyone listening online. At that time, you won't be in the in-camera session, but when we come back, we'll be back online. So we just need a couple minutes to get there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. In camera, there was approval of the in-camera minutes of the audit committee meeting of September the 10th. And the staff trustees received in-camera audit reports from St. Stephen Catholic Elementary School, Sacred Heart Catholic Elementary, St. Teresa of Calcutta Catholic Elementary, John 23rd Catholic Elementary, St. Bernadette Catholic Elementary, St. Christopher Catholic Elementary, Mary Fix Catholic Elementary, St. Jerome Catholic Elementary, St. Margaret of Scotland Catholic Elementary, as well as audit status update report. Move adjournment. Moved by Thomas. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thanks very much, and thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.